Doing?
Oh,
All right, guys.
I know. See,
Welcome back to everybody. It's been a bit of a break since we had the last Spurs 9501 live stream. So good to see everybody again. Good to be back talking Spurs, all things Spurs. Lots to talk about today. So everybody, great to be back. Zach, how you been keeping?
Oh, pretty good. I haven't really missed a game lately, so that's nice. Working game relationships working out nicely too.
Okay, excellent. And Eric, how have you been?
been great. It's been a good time. Doing good in school, and
Yeah,
also doing good in watching Spurs in the middle of class.
oh,
Up and down emotions, but haven't got
very
caught
good, very
once.
good. Well, it's good to see.
That's
We've got
awesome.
lots to talk about today, guys. So it's good to have everybody back. And it's going to be spring at the moment. So that's good news as well. Should be
Yeah.
hopefully less snow for Zach in
It
Canada.
snowed pretty good last night.
Okay,
What's
guys. So
snow?
listen, what snow? Yeah, exactly. Well, we didn't have any snow this year,
White,
but
fluffy, cold,
Oh man, I've never seen that.
yeah,
heavy.
you got to go to
It's heavy.
Toronto to see that. Yeah. Right. So, guys, let's talk about Tottenham Hotspur, the enigma that is Tottenham Hotspur. Um, Let me come to you first, Eric. What do you think about the form, the great win against Man City, then the loss against Burnley, then beating Leeds and losing to Middlesbrough? Now we beating Everton 5-0. What's going on, Eric? What is that typical Tottenham? And then I'll come to Zach.
You know, we're inconsistent. That's what it is. It's inconsistency. I'm glad when we go up against the big teams in Man City. Liverpool late last year. I'm glad we're up for it. We're up for games like that. But when it comes to a team like Burnley, Middlesbrough, that's a team we need to be beating. And a struggle with that is that what comes from that is that we can't seem to beat a team in a low block.
Mm.
When a team is open like Leeds, Man City, Everton were pretty open. We're able to dominate, but in the low block, we don't. I, we've preached this a long time, but it's true. I mean, we don't have an Ericsson, to break a low block, to put a ball into space, and that's what we're lacking, and that's what we need to see improvement over the summer.
Yep. Okay, great. Zach, what's your thoughts on the inconsistency of Spurs at the moment?
Well, as they say, hit or miss.
Mm.
Um, it's unfortunate that we're in this sort of position where we easily could be in that top four right now, especially against a couple of the lower, easier
Yep.
teams.
Yep.
A mentality I've taken though is like we're all professionals. They're all professional players. Anything can happen. I mean, with Mira, I like still haunts me. But you look at us against the bigger teams, and it's exciting. It's just a better game. We're not sitting back right away. We're actually attacking the ball. So I think I have really high hopes for the rest of the season. Let's just say that.
Mm.
No more losses. Mm-mm.
No more losses, Got some tough games coming up though. So let's talk about the United game tomorrow then. What's your thoughts, Zach, on how it's going to go? Both teams, well, we've been in sort of patchy form. United not in great form. Firstly, is it a must-win for top four? Can we still make top four if we don't win?
No. I mean, I guess numerically it's possible, but no, we need to make a statement. We've already beaten City, and City just put a thumping to them.
Yeah,
So realistically, we need to lean on them. They're just a team of superstars with no chemistry.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
it looks like. So we can exploit that as soon as one or two of them start making the mistakes. They get a little rough. I hope Ronaldo plays because
yeah,
he has done nothing this season.
yeah, yeah.
We barely even need to mark the guy. He's not getting passes from his players. Bruno and Pogba are having to go forward because they're not trusting Ronaldo, it seems. So let's exploit that. Let's bring their midfielders deep and get the counterattack going again.
Okay, great. Oh, Cam's just joined. Let me add him to the stream. Welcome, Cam. How you
Yes.
doing, buddy?
How's
Nice
it
to see
going?
you.
Hey,
Good.
Cam.
Yeah, sorry about
Cam,
that.
that's all right. No worries. We were just talking about the United game, and then we'll come to you, Cam. Eric, what's your thoughts about the United game, and what do you think's gonna, happen
Yeah,
there?
Ralph Ragnick is going to want to press us and is want to dominate, but is also going to want to dominate with caution because he knows how dangerous our counterattack is.
Mm,
I'm sure he's gonna look at that Everton game and see how we were. We were dangerous. the right-hand side, I've never seen our right-hand side of our attack look so dangerous. And that's thanks to Kulusevski and the reemergence of Doherty.
Yeah, we're
And
going to come on to Kulu and Doherty later, but yeah, you're right. Yep.
So Ralph is going to proceed with caution, and because our counterattack is, worrisome, to go up against. And, you can say, oh, we played a counterattack style, last season with Mourinho, but, this is a different type of counterattack style. We're more fluid, we're more aggressive. We go up the field. I say we have more fitness, to play that aggressive style and pragmatic, but still at the same time, we can put ourselves in front of our opposition's face. And so I feel like that's what we're going to have to do against Man United. And, our record against the big teams under Antonio Conte has been, superb so far. He always has a great game plan against a big team, and I'm ready to see it tomorrow.
Excellent. Cam, welcome back. Good to see you after such a long time.
Yeah,
Cam,
thanks. Sorry about the problems I was having, but all resolved now.
No, it's good to see that. We're just talking about the match tomorrow with United, Tottenham's up and down form, United raising themselves for the big game. What's your thoughts on the match? Is it a must-win for Spurs to make top four?
I mean, I think that, the fact that we're still talking about top four after losing to Southampton and Burnley and throwing it away in the way that we did is really, in a way, makes me wonder if we're delusional or not. I don't think top four is really somewhere where we need to be concentrating on. I think top six is where we're probably is more realistic. Anything can happen, and if we get top four, fantastic. I think I would hope that Chelsea get kicked out of everyting. And
well, we want to talk about the Chelsea later. Yeah.
The way I said it was because then maybe top five would be get into the Champions League. That's the only other hope that we could have.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then then there's everything's up for grabs. I mean, it has happened before. I would say that against United, is it a must-win game? I would say every game is a must-win game, simply because we have lost some of those games that we weren't must-win. We'd already written them off as fans as already won, like the Burnley game, like the Southampton game, like some of the other games that we let, the Wolves game that we threw away again. We'd already put them aside and said that we've won. And my problem is with all of this is just take those three teams: Southampton, Wolves, and Burnley. Arsenal, we've got games in hand now over us and our top four, right?
Yep.
All those teams, I believe, in more or less the same time that we lost to them. And that is the difference between top four and not being top four. So that, for me, is a big issue here. Should we beat United? Well, I'm sure that we're going to discuss that in more detail.
Yeah.
That is a big issue to come up, right?
Okay. Zach, what's the important areas you think in the match tomorrow against United? Where are the areas it could be won or it could be lost? What do you think from a Spurs point of view?
Well, obviously on our defense, they're going to have a lot of solid attacking players. We've been, especially against the big teams, really stacking it a bit. You're seeing our wing backs going back. You're seeing our midfielders go back. Sonny's defending. Kulusevski's getting back. Even Kane. Like, we're working as a unit a little better defensively. Obviously, mistakes in these other games aren't really going to matter tomorrow. So, again, our counterattacking is going to have to be sharp. We might only get those 4 or 5 chances all game. But I think if we can get a couple goals in the first half, the second half will open up and we'll probably get a couple more, kind of like Everton. United is prone to fall apart. 1 or 2 mistakes, they start fighting against each other. They're all hot-headed in their own way. And I think we can exploit the form that they're in right now.
Yep. Yeah, okay, good points there. Eric, what do you think, it's going back, following on from Zach's points, what are the weak points you think for United where we should be concentrating when we play them tomorrow?
2 words. Harry Maguire. That's the guy we should be targeting. That's the only guy we should even be going up forward against. I think Varane is not available. I think it will be...
Is Varane not playing? I thought Varane was available, but I might be wrong. Yeah.
All right, still, game plan is Harry Maguire, force him into mistakes. He has to say he's a center back and an English center back, who starts every game. He has no positional awareness for a center back. I never played center back, and even I know where to be. You know, he can't seem to handle when there's two guys in his area. You know, he's not good at communicating to the rest of his back line and his midfield and McTominay. It's just not good at all. And I feel like we can create troubles for him. You know, we saw in the Everton game, if I want to get tactical, Bentancur dropped into the back line and allowed Ben Davies, our overlapping center back, to create overloads with him and Sessegnon on the left-hand side. And what that allowed was Son to stay essentially close to Kane. And that's what we can do against Man United and keep them too close to Maguire and keep giving him problems throughout the whole game. And we can see that on either side. You know, we saw Doherty play very centrally against Everton. You know, he made that pass to Kane from a central position for the first goal. And in the second goal, he also came from a central or more inward, position. So, we've always said Conte likes his wing backs to keep the width, but with Kulusevski in the side, he has kept the width and has allowed Doherty to play more inward. And so I would love to see that again, this time targeting Maguire, because Michael Keane couldn't do anything against us last Monday.
Yep.
May I say something?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, Zach, please.
It's about Doherty. The one thing that I think, and it's right off your point there, Eric, is how central he's becoming, because he's very one-footed on the right side. And whenever he gets pinned against the line, he always loses the ball. He's reckless. It costs us. So we didn't see any of that. Kulusevski's helping him out there. And we have the three center backs, so there's a little bit more coverage there, right? But yeah, like his passing has just overnight almost just become pinpoint as Kane's. And I'm excited. I hope he can continue the form as well. And I'm impressed with him from last game.
Okay, great. Cam, can we actually keep a clean sheet against United? This is what I want to ask you. In your view, and then we'll talk about your favourite player. Can we keep a clean sheet against United?
I mean, I think, it depends who shows up, doesn't it? It really does depend who shows up. I mean, there are 2 or 3 different types of Tottenham. So the one that could never score a goal but didn't concede a goal. That was the ones in the early days of Conte. Very, very difficult to find a goal. Then there was a Tottenham that couldn't help but concede goals. That's all they did. And then there was the one that played against Leeds, Everton, and Manchester City. 3 different teams. And I think that this is what the most frustrating thing about any Spurs fans is what team is going to show up. Because I hear what everyone says about, we've got to target this player, we've got to target that player, we've got to, go for this. But it depends who actually shows up, what kind of player shows up. Because we have the team that is like, it looks like the Keystone Cops at the back, where the other team is just like watch. Once we pass it around ourselves and suddenly find it in the back of the net, they don't even know how it got there themselves. Yep. And we've seen that. I mean, where there's been zero pressure on us, stupid mistakes by all the players at the back, where they suddenly just handed it to the only player from the opposition who's unmarked, and they just get a tap in from nothing, from absolutely no great play, no fantastic movement on the other side, nothing. It's just handed to them on the plate. As I said, Keystone Cops. So will we concede? If the Keystone Cops turn up, we'll concede a shitload, because let's face it, Man United have got little going for them. But one thing they have got going for them is they've got a good attacking front, and they got a number of players they on the bench that would probably make our first team and can't even get into their team when it comes to attacking. I think the best thing for us that has happened recently is the partnership with Team Kane and Kulusevski. And that is the thing that I still think is developing, and that is the thing that probably scares most attackers and most forwards and most defenders, in the opposition thing. And if that starts working better, then we will score and we should win the game.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just follow on from that. What's your thoughts on the improvement in Matt Doherty? I know it's just one game, Cam, and you've been one of his fiercest critics, but even you have to agree that it's looking fairly promising now. He had a much better game. All right, it was Everton. I take your point, but still, he's had bad games against bad teams before. What do you think about Matt Doherty?
I think that
is this the Matt Doherty we used to see at Wolves, getting up forward and making crosses?
I don't think anything about Matt Doherty. I think is he's had one good game, when he has about 5 or 6 good games consistently, then I'll sit here and I'll eat whatever you want me to eat, my hat or whatever. But right now, on one good game and on 2 good prospects.
Come on, we're just working on scraps here. We're working on scraps. Come on.
I still remember that Doherty a couple of games back who had more or less an open goal, and I can't remember. I think we were losing against who, and he just
Middlesbrough
skied it right over there. Right? How long ago was that? How long ago was that? A couple of weeks ago.
But
I don't believe that somebody can overnight become any better than.
That's better, Eric. I can see you a lot better now, mate.
I really think that Doherty's got a long way to go before he thinks one simple performance is going to change it. Because I know what the problem is with this, right? And this is a typical Spurs thing. Again, we talk about Spurs here, right? They have one good performance, and then they dine out of it on it for 3 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's it. I'm done. Now I can my way for 3 seasons. And good. They do it every week in, week out. Those players do it in, week out, and they beat themselves up when they don't even do that well. I just can't see it. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me just stop you there. I'm going to come to Eric in a minute and then Zach. But what about Ryan Sessegnon, Cam, playing left back 4 or 5 games and then he's become injured again? He's like this Darren Anderton of the 2022, isn't he?
I'm surprised he made it through 4 games. When has he ever made 4 games?
But what did you think of his performances while he was playing?
I think his performances were getting better and better. They are what you expect. You start off, you're rusty, you get better, you get better, you get better. But I mean, if this is what is going to happen, then he's got to go. We can't have that level of inconsistency and that level of that a player that's so prone to injury, they can never ever get himself match fit. Because in effect, he just about got himself match fit when he was actually at the pace of the game, and boom, he's gone again. How long for? I don't know. How long's he gone for? Does anyone know?
Yeah, I'll say Eric in a minute. Eric, he's out till the international break, I think. Do you think we should stick with Sessegnon when he's so injury prone? Eric?
I think the only thing I would say yes because of is that he's just 21. And when we sent him on loan to Hoffenheim last season, he played in the position he's playing in right now and got forward and had success in that role. And, yes, injuries are a worry. I feel like that comes from a lack of I'll say managerial before. Managers not focusing on fitness, and I think he's still feeling from that. But I feel like in the summer he will have to get right if he wants to steal that role from left wing back. And trust me, I think he's kind of feeling a little pressure because when we took him off against Wolves, that was kind of something we had to do, but at the same time we kind of didn't want to do because we want to build his confidence up. And taking him out like 20 minutes into the game, that kind of hurts a player's confidence. But we saw him improve against Leeds. The whole team sucked against Middlesbrough, but we saw him play good against Everton for the first 45 minutes. But I say he is feeling the pressure because not even a minute into the second half, Reguilon scores in his position. Probably in the same position, of Sessegnon would have gone forward in that, in that
That's the question,
well.
Eric. If Sessegnon was on the pitch, do you think he's going to be in that position to score that goal or not?
Yes,
okay.
I certainly think so. Because I was actually surprised to see Reguilon in that position because I knew I would have seen Sessegnon, but not Reguilon. And but no, he's going to have to get right. I think he's more confident now because he has felt himself what he can do, what he can provide on that left side. And now it's all about just getting the fitness so he can do those night in, day in, day out.
Yeah. Zach, do you think there's an issue with the Tottenham Hotspur medical system here? Because Sessegnon keeps injured. Skip's been out for 2.5 months. I think Cam will remember even Antonio Conte mentioned it in one of the press conferences about the medical staff. Do you think we've got an issue with the medical staff not up to scratch here? I mean, Skip's been out for 10 weeks.
Yeah, true. I almost forget what his injury even was. Actually, I do. All I know about is we've missed him big time. Yeah. And thank goodness we got Bentancur, though. Yeah. Like, he's been awesome in his place, essentially. Mm. But
going back to the original question with Sessegnon, do you think we should persevere with him, or do you think we should get rid of him because he's too injury prone?
I mean, it's better to play it safe than sorry, but it is a trend that he is not playing more than a couple games in a row. And personally, I still think Reguilon's our number one left wing back. So He just had some chances, and he did look better and better. I think defensively, not quite good enough. Going forward, he was improving quite a bit. So I mean, yeah, and as Eric said, he's still pretty young. So if he's able to improve and stay fit, then there's a chance he'll be good enough or even better.
Okay, excellent. Hello, Tracy. Thanks for joining the stream. So let's do a quick prediction, and then we'll go on to some other topics. So let's start with you, Eric. Prediction for Saturday, tomorrow?
I think Man United will score first.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're going to end up winning the game 3-1.
Okay, 3-1. About you, Zach?
Yeah, my prediction is 3-1 as well, actually.
Okay, great. Cam?
Really tough one. I mean, my gut tells me, to be perfectly honest with you, that we're going to lose this one. But I wouldn't be positive, and I think we're going to win it 2-1. Only because I think United are reeling in a way. But you know, when you get a team which is on the ropes like they are, they do tend to bounce back a lot more than what Tottenham do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. My prediction is 2-0 Tottenham Hotspur. I'm going to be positive. I think we're going to hold them off there. Now, guys, I want to talk to you about Emperor Antonio, about his outburst after Burnley. You know, we can't work this stream without talking about that. Let's come to you first, Cam. What was all that about? About I'm not good enough and maybe I should go. What is that? What's going on there, Cam?
I mean, he made some very valid points, and I appreciate what he said. And I think that is something that we need to take on board. And that is that I think what he's saying very clearly is, I've done everything I can with this team, everything that I know, everything that I've done with every other team, with every other player, and the results that I got were different. But with these guys, I've done exactly the same, given them all that sort of skills and all the sort of tactical training, all the physical training and everything else, and that is the result. He said, and you know, I can see where you feel. He felt at the time probably he couldn't go any further, and Anton Prata, in effect, with those players, had to agree with him. And maybe at that time, I also felt maybe this isn't a Conte team. Maybe with this team, he won't be able to do anything. Maybe it is something that we have to consider seriously. That, you know, he might be one of the best managers in the world, and he definitely is, but not with this team. But then the question, obviously, everyone would ask, then who then? Because there is nobody else, is there, really? Is there? There's nobody out there that if he can't do it. But maybe the question is, sometimes it's not a fit. Maybe.
Do you think this is the case where it's not a fit with Conte?
You know what? I'm beginning to think more and more that there's one thing that's interesting that I read about Conte, which I thought everyone would be really interested to see, is that where he always had 4 to 5 days with his team to be able to play them between games. He played fantastically and normally won. Where they were playing games every 2 days, they were always doing badly because he just didn't have enough time to fill them. And this is what's happened with Tottenham. But how can you go from that same team within a space of a few days of what we saw at Middlesbrough and then what we saw at Manchester City? It's just nonsensical. It doesn't compute in any normal person's brain. I mean, where was the fight against Burnley a few days later after Manchester City? Where was it? Was that the same team? Was that? I mean, what is?
But how do you explain that, Cam?
I explain it by saying what I explained about Matt Doherty. They all think they're fantastic and they'll dine out on it for the next 2 years, because for the Tottenham players and for the team is play one good game and earn your wages for the next 2 years. That's good enough. You know, that's not how anything is won. That's why we haven't won anything for God knows how many years.
Yeah. Eric, what do you think? Was that a cry for help by Conte, just saying, look, I'm really struggling here? What was that outburst all about, Eric?
I don't think it was a cry for help. You know, I've had friends that watch Serie A, and they've told me that, you know, this is how Antonio Conte works. You know, he acted like this in Inter Milan, you know, before he finally sealed the deal. But I don't think it's a cry for help. I think it's a cry to the, not even a cry to the board. It's almost like he's telling the board, we've heard Mourinho say this. We heard now Antonio Conte say this. You know, how many managers are going to go out the door before we replace the players in the squad? You know, we've had 4 managerial changes since Pochettino, Mourinho, Ryan Mason, Nuno, and now Antonio Conte. And, you know, it's about time we need to change the squad. You know, a different manager, same players. You know, we've heard that preached out. But, you know, I feel like Mourinho also preached that as well, but he never did it as sternly as Antonio Conte is. And I think Antonio Conte knows his position. he knows that he's the best thing Levy has, I feel. And because we were lucky to get Antonio Conte, because I don't know any other manager that would take on this job with these players that we have that's been aging since the 2016 season.
Yep.
You know, I don't know any other manager that would ever take on this job. And so Antonio Conte realizes that position that he has over Levy. And he knows that if Levy even thinks about sacking Antonio Conte, this will be the last time. You know, we've not me, but there's some fans that have given Levy chances. Like, okay, we got Conte now. Let's do this. Let's do this. But if Conte walks, it's over for him. And
yeah,
it all depends on the summer. Because when Mourinho first got his summer transfer window, I'm thinking, granted, it was a pandemic window. You know, he's gonna finally get his guys and instill his mentality. What we got from that window: Holbier, Doherty, sleepers, Vinicius gone, Bale gone. You know, but we still got Doherty and Holbier, and they're just not good players. And so I hope with a new managing football director and Paratici, along with a great manager and Antonio Conte, we can change something in the summer and get his players and receive the full financial backing he deserves. Now, I also want to go back to Cam's point when he talked about Antonio Conte having a great record when there's a span of 5 days in between games. And I saw a stat line the other day where when it was December when we went on that great run, we had Norwich, Crystal Palace, Brentford, Leeds, all had games like longer than a 5 day span. Oh, and even Liverpool. And, you know, when undefeated, yes, the roster is really old and is aging and deteriorating. but
only a couple of them.
In that span, we went undefeated with having games longer than 5 days. Everything else been losses like Burnley, Southampton, Middlesbrough. We got a win against Leeds. Having games long that don't span over 5 days. But we are about to get a 1 week a game Conte back. Next week we have Brighton midweek, and that's our last game in the midweek. I'm assuming they're going to put Arsenal in the midweek. I'm assuming because they're going to have to find a way to fill in that game. But after Brighton leaves out of the makeup games, we're having 1 week a game Conte, and that's where we can make a push against for the top four. And there's no excuse. There's no fitness excuse. There's no tiredness excuse. You have 6 days to prepare for each game.
That's a really good point, actually. I think the break between games gives Conte to work on tactics and, what special teams, as I say, not an NFL thing, but special free kicks and things like that against, a specific opponent, which is Conte is an expert at. Zach, going back to Conte's outburst, what was your thoughts around that? And what do you think prompted that? Although it's an appalling performance against Burnley, but I think a bit went over the top and he realized it later. But what do you think, Zach?
Yeah, it's probably just in the heat of the moment type lash out. And he's probably confused himself as to how we can be beating these big teams, these title challenging teams, the champions, and then losing to Burnley and Middlesbrough and stuff like that. So I don't think there was any ill intent. Obviously, he was upset, as were we all. I usually say some mean things at the end of a game when we lose, but usually not to the press. It is what it is. But so I don't take anything from that. He's frustrated, as are we. But he's got a job to do, and I just hope he focuses on that. And I think good performances are coming.
Okay. There was one thing I was confused of why there was one lash out he had, which I was very confused, and that came from the Sky Italy one. I mean, yes, his words were kind of misconstructed in the headlines, but I was confused him complaining about the signings of Kulusevski and Benchker, who he green-lighted. But I was confused the reason why he said, I want players who are ready. I'm getting a 21-year-old player and a 24-year-old player, I believe, in Benchker. So this is the vision of Tottenham. They want, young players where they can sell on later, but he wants ready players. So I was confused why he said that when he green-lighted those two signings. That lashing out, I was confused at. But, like I said, he has been in the heat of the moment, and I totally feel that because I think it's like the first time we had a manager that is the voice of the fans, And so that's why I'm happy that Conte is talking. Yes, he can kind of go too far, like I said, with the mention of the January signings. But other than that, I'm all for it.
Yep. Cam, the team that he played against Everton, and let's assume that Reguilon's at left back rather than Sessegnon, is that the strongest team we can put out?
I think it's the strongest team we can put out against an extremely weak side. I mean, we've got to ask ourselves, right, what were Everton thinking? What was Lampard thinking, putting out the team, and what were his tactics? What was his ideas? Because it was I'd love it if every single team did that to us every week. I mean, who wouldn't? But be realistic. I mean, even what's the bottom team right now? Norwich,
Yeah.
Norwich wouldn't even put a team out with like that. And was it our strongest team? It was our strongest team because it was a fantastic performance. My problem is with that is that is this more a reflection on how great we are, or is this more a reflection on how bad the opposition was? Because let's go back to that Leeds game too. I mean, that Leeds game led to Bielsa being knocked out, being basically losing his job. Bielsa had already by then conceded something like 17 goals in 3 games, something ridiculous like that, was never going to change. If Spurs hadn't scored what we did score, and even then we gave Leeds so many chances to actually get back into that game, it was an absolute joke. It could have been, 5-5 at the end of it, You got to wonder, was it we were so brilliant and they were so, or was it all to do? This is what worries me. Are we reading too much into those 2 games? Because those 2 teams were so woefully bad.
I think you're right, but the thing that gives us hope is Man City. But I wanted to ask you, Cam, and then I'll come to the other guys. What happens when a team does a low block? We can't seem to do anything about that. If they're open like Man City, like Zach said, Man City and Everton, we can play around and we can score. But what about low block like Burnley? We just what we meant to do, Cam?
Think about Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough. Who can't even they're not even they're 10th or something in the
no, they're not that low, but they're pretty decent team. They knocked out Man United in the previous round.
Yeah, they did on penalties. But even Man United managed to get through the game and at least get to penalties. We didn't even manage that. What these guys managed to do was completely take out every single attacking option that Tottenham had. Played that low block, played it very well, and then realized that actually these guys aren't half as good as they think they are.
But Cam, the question to you is, how do teams get around the low block? What are you meant to do?
Well, I think if you had effective win backs, if you had players that had some skills that actually could pass the ball, because against Middlesbrough nobody could pass or do anything. And if we're going to talk about Doherty, let's never forget that Middlesbrough experience that we had. And same with Sessegnon, who was absolutely awful. Did he come off after after the first half?
We lost Bentancur in the first half, didn't we, Zach, in that match? Yep. But
I think those would have been the keys, but that game they never showed up. That's the problem, isn't it?
Yep.
I think we have to take a.
Oh, sorry, Eric. Go ahead, Eric. Go on.
I think we have to take a playbook out of Pep Guardiola's because that's all he plays against every weekend. Because that's seems to be the only way.
We don't have the players Pep has, unfortunately, Eric.
Exactly, and that's another thing. There's no evidence of us beating a low block team.
When was the last time we beat a low block team?
I sure can't remember because I remember the first one was Southampton.
I
don't think we've beaten a low block team, but anyway, Zach can come back to that.
We haven't, but how do you beat a low block team? It's kind of crazy me answering this, but 1 is simply shots from distance, 2 creating overloads, and 3 packing the space. Creating more than they can handle. But simply we can't just do that because against Middlesbrough, just too slow. We were too slow in the build-up, and once we got there, finally into the final third, bad pass, restart again. And if Bentancur was playing instead of Winks, who had the worst game I've ever seen from any player in the Spurs shirt, maybe the game would have been different. I still don't think so. Maybe we would have been more solidly. We wouldn't have lost possession as many times as we did with Winks on the pitch. But other than that, we have no evidence. We haven't seen Tottenham beat a low block team. Everton wide open, Man City wide open, Leeds wide open with a man marking system. And so, I hope.
Look what happened to us against Wolves.
Yeah, Wolves, a great team. They create a low block, and their counterattack, I say, is more dangerous than ours. But that's what they're built off. That's their
what we
game.
were supposed to be.
And that's what they're good at it. They stick to one thing and they're good at it. So, So Zach.
Okay, Zach, over to you, buddy. How do we get past these low block teams? What are we meant to be doing? Conte should know how to beat a low block team, surely. It's not the first time he's faced it.
Oh, he's got a few tools in the playbook. He's played teams like this throughout his career, because he's usually at the top teams who have we instill fear still. Like, you don't want Kane, you don't want Son bearing down on your net, so that's why you play this system to stop that. But when you're seeing our quick counterattacks, and I mean, we need to play the early crosses, and I don't really know. Like, it's tough because I don't really watch any other games, so I'm not seeing City beat the other teams, right? So I don't know. It's a tough situation, but I think tomorrow we won't have to deal with that.
Okay. Let's move on now to talk about some other things. I want to talk about ex-manager of ours, Mauricio Pochettino, again, who's failed at PSG. What's your thoughts on that, Eric? I mean, he's got Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi as a front three, and he still can't get through. Is this again Poch? That some of the headlines I've been seeing is you can take Poch out of Spurs, but you can't take Spurs out of Poch. What's your thoughts on all this?
I think we were talking about Man United earlier, how they have so many good players yet no chemistry. Yeah. Well, that's the story for Paris. And so, you got a Messi who's 34, not playing. As I think Messi at 34 at Barcelona would have played better than what we've seen at Paris. But Pochettino, I was worried for Pochettino because I'm happy for him. I'm glad he got a top job in Paris. I'm glad he has the money. But a player with a team full of so many egos in Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi, I was honestly worried for him because usually when Pochettino was at Spurs, he was that iron hammer. He could love you, put an arm over your shoulder, but he was also that iron hammer. And I feared for him too because, you're probably, you have players, and the players are not stupid. You got Neymar, Messi. They've won just about everything, every competition they've played in. And you have a guy coaching you that's been to a Champions League final, has been to a lot of finals, League Cup finals, chased the Premier League title 2 years in a row, but he hasn't won anything. And so the players know that. And I feel like Pochettino was just scared to, say something to them. But, taking the Spurs, you can take him out of Spurs, but you can't take the Spurs out of him. That's ridiculous because, he went to a Champions League final with Winks and Sissoko. So, he's worked wonders with a team that is cohesive, that plays together, that doesn't play for, individually. He's coached a team like that. And Paris is simply just not like that.
But let me ask you a question, Eric. Let me ask you a question. If Pep Guardiola is managing that team, do they go out to Real Madrid?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go on.
I mean, you could, Antonio Conte can manage Spurs. Paris. And I don't think,
do you think they're beyond hope? Yeah. What do you think, Cam? If Pep Guardiola is managing that team, do they go out to Madrid or not?
Well, I mean, the reason why I would agree with Eric is because Pep Guardiola's record in the Champions League with Manchester City hasn't been much better anyway. Where has he got to? So
got to the final last year, but anyway.
Yeah, okay, but he still got beat by Chelsea, which was an awful thing to put in. That's embarrassing in itself. But what I would say is that there is an issue here, isn't there? I mean, it's not the way that Pep or Conte or anyone else would go out. It's the way that Poch went out.
Yeah, he froze.
Poch went out because he was winning that game. There wasn't much time left. And that 5, 10, 15-minute collapse, whatever it was, when they let Benzema come in and score those goals, even after one of them, absolute inability to understand what was going on and to game manage it at that stage is what the problem is. And that is where it comes to bottling it. Would Pep have bottled it at that stage? I don't think so. I think from the position where they were and where they ended up is what the problem is with Poch and the winning mentality. And I think the great managers know when they're winning is how to keep the team, how to close out games. One of the biggest problems we at Spurs have, and that's why people say it, is we never learn how to close out games. We never learned it under what's his name, Mourinho. We did in the early days against Poch, and then we lost it. And since then, we've never had it since. Never had it since. So that's the problem.
Yeah. Zach, do you think this is the reason why a lot of guys don't want Poch to come back, because he hasn't really changed? I take it that Paris Saint-Germain is a team of individuals. It's not Poch's fault, really. But what do you think, Zach?
Yeah, that was a collateral collapse. It was horrible. And they were playing really well, it seemed. Just the flurry of Benzema came out of nowhere, and they just weren't able to handle it. Obviously,
two of the goals were self-inflicted by Paris Saint-Germain. Donnarumma and also Marquinhos are stupid. You don't send the ball back across your goal, do you, if you're trying to clear it? But anyway, sorry, carry on, Zach.
A lot of confusion back there, to say the least.
Sounds like Spurs.
Sounds like Spurs, yeah.
We had that trouble as well. We can compare ourselves to PSG. Why not?
Yep.
Maybe we're the only team they can beat.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Let's get some Champions League next year.
Yeah. Well, we should play them in. But Poch is not going to be there. Do you think? Yeah, actually, that's a good point. Zach, Poch is obviously going to get sacked because they were shouting and screaming in the thing. Where is Poch going to be next year? And please don't say Tottenham, because I'm going to cut you off the stream if you say Tottenham.
No, I think hopefully we can keep Conte.
So where's Poch going to be next season then?
Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea. Interesting.
No way. I'm not even saying awful.
I think you hate Chelsea that much to give him Poch, do you? Are you joking? Now come and tell us the truth, Zach. Where do you think?
I think there's a chance that he could go to Chelsea. Like, yes, he loves Tottenham, but I mean, he's now a big money manager, and I mean, they're going through turmoil as well. So bring the two turmoils together, and they might create some magic. But we'll still beat them. I don't really know what other openings are there.
Could go to Man United.
Yeah. Either one of those Man City. Yeah. Because I think Guardiola's got to leave City at some point too. He's already done everything.
Yeah, he's got to leave. But I don't think. I'm not sure any top team is going to take him, because he hasn't done anything really.
Still the shoe-in for Man United.
Yeah, I think he's going to shoot it. Yeah,
for this week, I mean, and it's one of those. I feel bad for him. I think he's got ability to be a very good manager, and if he wins the French title and he wins the cup or whatever, which he should do, it may, still make some of the big clubs think, well, he's gone over that hurdle. He's finally won something, because let's face it, last season he didn't even win the league.
But what is he lacking, Cam? What does he lack as a manager? Tell us.
Mentality, the final push, the final mentality, because the game plan over 2 games against Real Madrid was perfect. There wasn't a problem. But then for some reason or another, the posh team fell to pieces when it mattered, that last few minutes, that last thing. And that's what the difference between a great team and a good team. It's literally split-second decisions. It's a little bit of extra fitness, and it's a little bit of stronger mentality. And, it's fine margins here at these levels, very, very fine margins. And, I believe maybe Real Madrid just at the end, and their players just had that belief that they could turn these big guys around.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's all about mentality. Real Madrid don't know when they're beaten. They look like a rubbish team. They come back and scored 3 goals. Eric, Poch made a comment in the paper that Tottenham will always be my home and it's my team, and I dream of going back there. So, are you worried about that, or are you happy about that?
It's time for him to move on. I love Pochettino. I'm being dead serious. You can ask my friends back in 2019. I was distraught that day when he got sacked. I shed a couple tears. No lie, but I'm tired of all this mess. It's time for Tottenham to move on. It's time for Mauricio to move on. It's a chapter that has been closed. The book is closed, finished, and it's honestly time for him to move on. I mean, I understand he's going to love the club. This is where he found his most success at a club so far. I mean, I don't count all the league trophies in France. Even though he didn't win anything at Tottenham, he has found the most success, and it's where he felt home. But I think it is time for him to move on. It's time for us to move on. I think it was like a month into Antonio Conte's reign here. I see a report that the Tottenham backroom staff, like the exec, hopefully Antonio Conte can get the team in the right shape so Pochettino can come back. Are you serious? Are you serious?
I don't want to hear that.
Conte is miles ahead of Pochettino, and I'm not disrespecting Pochettino at all, but it's just the truth. And
yeah, it is what it is, isn't it?
Is the right guy to lead this team. Now, we haven't seen Conte stay at a club for more than 2-3 years. That's worrisome because if he doesn't get the players he wants, he's out the door. So that's a worrisome. But hopefully he can build a new era here, just like Pochettino did. That's the only thing I want to happen.
Do you think that do you think he'll leave if we don't get Champions League or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Potentially could leave, but hopefully he'll stay. But why don't you take Josomar's question there, Zach? Who else do you see taking over Antonio in the summer if he leaves? What do you think? Then I'll ask Cam and Eric to give an answer for that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pass that one on. I haven't even thought about another manager right now.
Yeah. Eric?
No one.
Let me answer that.
Okay. It might be a nobody. All of a sudden I can't think of his name. I was like, if he was still available, the guy at Newcastle.
Eddie Howe.
I want to ask a simple question.
Go ahead, Cam.
Go on, Cam.
Very simple question. I'm listening to everything that you've been saying, all you guys. I see how it's really interesting to me to see how people change. Because 2 minutes ago, no one was going to be managing us. No one would ever want to take Tottenham. Why would anyone want to come here? And now we're poo-pooing the fact that, if Pochettino comes back. But I'd like to ask one simple question. What has given you any way, shape or form the impression, right, that Spurs is too good for Pochettino? What have we done and achieved?
No, nobody's saying that, but we just don't want a manager that's not a proven winner.
We may have no choice. I can't see if Conte walks, we'll be begging for someone like Pochettino to come back.
Who's managing Rangers right now?
If Pochettino's come back, he's going to have to come back.
One at a time, Eric. Go ahead, Eric. One at a time. Go on, Eric.
If Pochettino's going to come back, he's going to have to come back with a different group of players. I cannot see Pochettino coming back with Kane, Son still in the squad, Davies still in the squad. Who else was on the Lloris still in the squad? Mora. I can't see that happening because I was like, oh, now we're going because those players would feel, oh man, we're going back to the past. In the past, we didn't win anything. That's just it's stupid. So if Pochettino were to come back, it's going to have to be a different generation at Spurs, new players. None of the players should even remember him being a former Tottenham manager.
Yeah, but he could bring Neymar with him.
No.
Yeah, no, we don't want 30, Neymar. But
at 30,
welcome to the stream, Stephen. Good to see you, buddy. But
that's not old. I'm 30.
Quick question. I've lost my train of thought now, but I think Cam raises a really good point. If Conte does leave, it sends out a really, really bad signal to everybody. We may now have no choice but to accept Poch back. He'll be the only guy prepared to come.
We're begging him to come back.
What do you think about that, Zach?
A lot of fans would enjoy that. Like I thought it was a really sour moment when we let him go. It was just kind of on a whim. We were looking poor at the moment, but I was pretty distraught as well as Eric.
Daniel Levy actually acknowledged that he made a mistake by sacking Poch.
Good, because that was a huge surprise to me. Like I was very surprised. And then especially go to like Espirito Santo after that. Devastated.
Well, look, all I can say is one thing. Whoever was responsible for the signing of Ndombele, whether it was Poch or whether it was Levy, needed to be fired. That is the bottom line. Because that is where we came out of the Champions League. We were riding high. We had money. We earned a lot of money in the Champions League. I think we earned about 60 million or something just for being in the final. Yeah, but exactly. But you know what?
Nice comment, Stephen.
We got carried away with our own importance and blew it on probably one of the worst players that ever worn a Spurs shirt.
Cam, you need to get over Ndombele now. We need to move on from Ndombele, right?
He might be back next season.
He's coming back. He's coming back.
He's pulling up.
Team now.
Is he pulling up trees at Lyon or not, Cam?
He's not coming. He's not coming getting the team now, from what I hear. He's coming back.
He's coming back. Eric is going to be happy, and Ndombele and them ballers are coming back.
Nah, I'm done.
Guys,
once I got my Bergwijn.
Yeah, Bergwijn is there to stay, thank God. But guys, let me talk to you. I want to talk a bit about something else that's happening very importantly, the Chelsea sanctions. Let's talk about that. I know it's not Tottenham, but it's very important for us. Eric, what do you think about the fact that he's been sanctioned by the UK government? He can't buy any players. He can't sell the club, blah, blah, blah. You know all the details about it. Do you think that's the right thing to do? And what do you think is going to be the impact of that, Eric?
It is the right thing to do. I was almost confused, because we were talking about this in one of my economics classes. Why sanction a club on, an English club, but that Chelsea is an asset of Roman Abramovich, and it comes to the question, like, we need to stop accepting owners tied to governments. The new owners in Newcastle tied to the Saudi Arabian government.
Yep,
So if anything in Saudi Arabia happens, which it is happening right now as we speak, genocide, why are we letting that, why are we giving the blind eye to that? But, you have Russian invasion of Ukraine, and now we're seizing everyone. It's happened in F1 with Nikita Mazepin. Now it's happening here with, Roman Abramovich. But at the same time, I don't feel sorry for these fans. Not at all. I don't feel sorry for them, and not because I hate Chelsea. It's just I don't. I do, but I don't feel sorry for the fans at all. But it's kind of harsh. I know there are some good Chelsea fans out there, but I don't feel bad at all. And you're about to see a hurt in their pockets. Maybe Tuchel was just trying to like save face, saying he loves where he's at right now, but at some point later, you cannot resign players. Like, you can't renew contracts, can't sell players, cannot buy players, can't even sell merchandise and tickets. Their shirt sponsor already just temporarily suspended.
Looks like Nike is going to withdraw sponsorship as well, apparently.
Exactly.
I thought this entire time that Abramovich wasn't friendly with Russia. That's a surprise.
He made all his money. One at a time, guys. One at a time. But listen, this could bring up something interesting, Cam. That if Chelsea go into free fall and they can't sign anybody, blah blah blah, Thomas Tuchel may leave. Would you take Tuchel at Tottenham?
You know what? I want to say something first. I think it's really.
I'll answer that question.
Would I take Tuchel? Well, I've got Conte. Why the hell would I want Tuchel? Conte to be
my job is to just stimulate debate here, not to think. Yeah, go.
Win us something, and I want Conte to stay there for the next 10 years if it was
okay.
Possible.
Yeah,
great. I believe in Conte. In Conte, we trust. I want to say this, right? Why is it that they let in the? And I think Eric nailed it in the beginning, right? You lie down with dogs and you get surprised and you get up with fleas because you get into bed with the devil. What's this going to happen? This guy, everybody knew, had brought stolen Russian money into England, and he was basically using Chelsea Football Club as a way to launder all this free money that he was getting because he could use it as a thing. I was okay then. Let's turn a blind eye now. Now that his best mate is going in there and basically committing genocide against fellow white people, because obviously no one likes seeing white people killing white people. Suddenly we decide we turn into he's now a pariah. I want to know why it took so long. Why so long? Why is this so not even strict enough? I think. Why are they even playing? Why is the team even allowed that? So, because we seem to forget the fact that every single one of those players up to date has been bought and has been living off of Russian blood money. They're still there. Where did that come from? So why are they still even allowed to be played? Anyone bought under Abramovich should not be allowed to play. I think Chelsea should be thrown out of the league. Personally, I think that what this guy was, the fact that he was allowed to be there for to get away with it. I actually honestly thought that he was going to be allowed to sell the club, make £3 billion or whatever it was, and walk away with his yachts, his helicopters, and everything else he wants. And then afterwards, they'll say, "Oh, now we will sanction him," because that's how these people work. They will scratch each other's backs.
He can't really come out and say anything bad against Putin because he's going to get a visit from the KGB then, which is not going to end nicely. So
all his other money, won't he? It's not that. You've got to understand, he was one of Putin's right-hand
top man. Yeah, exactly. He made a lot of money from the Russian thing.
Provinces as well, whilst he was a Chelsea football club. He was a governor. Whilst they were massacring people in Chechnya, that was okay, apparently. When they were running into Georgia, that was also okay. And he was a governor of one of the provinces. That was like, why are we let football be corrupted in this way? That's what I want to know. And it's going to happen again with the Saudis. And we shouldn't even stop there. What about the close links between the Leicester and the Thai government and the Leicester the people there? That needs to be looked at. There are some really bad stuff going on.
And apparently Joe Lewis has done some really bad stuff in Argentina as well with ENIC. But Cam, Zach, I want you to have a say. What do you think about actually, I'm going to pronounce it properly, Roman Abramovich. What do you think of the Abramovich situation?
I think that most of the billionaires on earth have a lot of dirty money. Most of them. With an exception to Elon Musk.
And they clean it through the football club.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not really sure why the players and coach staff and fans should be punished. Like, obviously, they're all supporting this, which is behind all the curtains, right? Trying to be shoved under the rug. But they're just there to do a job, and they're just there to get paid. And Abramovich, again, I thought I thought he broke ties with all the Russian oligarchs and stuff like that. So I didn't look into that as much as I should have, maybe, but I mean, sanction the man, I guess, because he's obviously got the blood money, but
it's built on blood money, though.
He's built the club. Zach, the club itself is losing money, Zach. What they earn doesn't pay for their costs, so he keeps on giving them free money and all that, and it's just Russian blood money. Apparently, he's got a company that's making steel that's being used for Russian tanks as well. It's all very, very dodgy. But Cam's right. Why have they taken 19 years to do this?
Yeah.
Well, I read that the club might owe him money already. Like they owe him.
But he's prepared. He's going to waive that. He's going to waive that. He's not going to take it back.
He's put 1.5 billion into the club. Blood money to buy players and to buy everything else and to prop up. It's in effect propping up a corrupt regime. If someone had put in 1.5 all this money into propping up some government or something else, we'll all be sitting there in absolute horror. But in effect, Chelsea is a corrupt regime built on people's blood, Russian people and everyone else's blood. There you go. I've said it.
Is that front page news, though? Like, are they blowing this up now, or are they just focusing on Roman?
But every single person who's been around and watching what's been happening at Chelsea knew it and has been saying it from day one.
But just to answer Zach's question, they've actually sanctioned 10 other 15 oligarchs. It's just not Abramovich. Yeah. But Eric, do you think Chelsea should be relegated, points deducted? Because if they go into administration, if Roman Abramovich's money is not used now, which he can't be, and they can't find another owner for whatever reason, they will go into administration because they don't have enough revenue to cover their costs. So they'll go into administration and they'll be deducted points, potentially relegated. Do you think that's what should happen to them?
I saw all the funny comments like, in 2016, Chelsea should, be stripped of the title, and it should go to, the second place team in 2017, whoever that was.
Exactly. I don't know who that would be.
Those comments are, hilarious. But, I'm confused. I mean, it has a potential of going into administration before a buyer, becomes available. I've seen this, in F1 when I know there's any F1 fans, but there was a racing team that went into administration because the owner got caught up in something in his home country in India, and that came in. And then a new owner came in and got them out of administration. But, I don't think they should be punished in terms of relegation, points deducted, because to me, those are punishments from on-field actions. I think you have to separate the club from the board and from the owner. And I think that's what you just have to do. As sad as that sounds, because I want to see Chelsea in League One, but their deterioration can go step by step by getting relegated. I don't think there should be any actions in terms of on-field performance, in terms of like relegation numbers.
Don't you think that they should be looking into what
money, the financials?
Where it's come from,
of course.
What all these players that he's bought for this blood money, and whether that was them, that should be looked at.
Now, if that is looked at, that's a problem.
That could lead to relegation. That could lead to, serious corruption taking place.
Serious corruption. Yes. And the thing is, three guys can't, Azpilicueta, Rudiger, and Christensen, they can't renew their contracts now, so they're going to have to be free agents.
Yep.
Let's take Christensen for sure.
I think he's
thought
going
he
to
signed
Barcelona.
someone. Yeah.
He's going to Barcelona.
Yeah.
Well, he's going. He's been agreed.
Who else? Absuqueta? No.
But what about all the players that they bought on and on and on? Any money that they want to throw at everything?
Lukaku, they bought for 97 million.
Shouldn't all that be investigated? Shouldn't it all be looked
They
at?
can keep him.
See, the whole point of financial fair play is just, just to have that little umbrella so we can just stop looking into corruptions. Financial fair play is ruled by corruptions. I still don't understand back in 2020, how can Man City be found guilty but still have a Champions League spot in the next season? They paid a large, excuse me, I don't think they were found guilty, but they had to pay a large sum of a fine. So why, if you're not guilty, then why you have to pay such a large fine? And it's just a scheme. UEFA's part of it. FIFA's definitely part of it. I worry about, I don't know if you want to go into it, but the Champions League in a couple of years, it's just more games for the players, because that's just more revenue.
But I mean, what Simon says is absolutely right. If it wasn't a top 4 team, if it wasn't Chelsea, if it wasn't Champions League winner, if it wasn't World Club winner, whatever, and that high profile that it does, and pushing the Premier League all over the world, they would have done everything they possibly could. If it was a Middlesbrough or somebody else or a Sunderland, and taken them down and done everything. But you know what? These teams get away with it, and this is what turns good sports fans off against the sport. Because you know what? This is not what the sport needs. There's no level playing field. This guy's bought in Russian blood money to the tune of 1.5 billion and was allowed to buy whatever the hell he wants. When he's been exposed as an accessory to mass genocide and murder, we suddenly now decide we're going to sanction him and we're going to affect the team. But what about everything else that's happened? What about all the other stuff that he's been doing and getting away with? Surely that's to be looked at.
Yeah, but what do you think, Cam, about the Chelsea fans singing Abramovich's name during the? What do you think about that?
Fans need to be taken out. I don't think they should be in League One. I think they should be out of all the leagues and stop right at the bottom in the Isthmian League or whatever it is, right? And made to work their way up because that's all they deserve. They're a piece of they are a piece.
What's your language?
Scum, and they've always has been, and they've just proved it.
Yeah, Eric, what do you think about the Chelsea fans singing Abramovich's name during the Ukrainian 1 minute applause? They were singing Abramovich's name. What do you think about that, Eric?
That's absolutely.
The bombing of those cities.
Hold on, Cam. Hold on. Let Eric have a say.
What kind of people they really are, doesn't it?
So, go on, Cam. Say that again, Cam. We missed it. Go on.
What I said is that to having watched everything that's happening in Ukraine and the murder and the massacre and the destruction of those cities, and then for those fans to come out and sing one of the guys who's probably behind them funding a lot of this praises, shows exactly what kind of people they are, exactly what kind of football fans they are, and exactly what should happen to them. They should be ashamed of themselves, and they should never be allowed back into a stadium again. That's my view, anyway.
Yeah, Eric. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's absolutely shameless. Shameless. Supposed to be paying respects. Now you're applauding a guy that's leading to the war against Ukraine, and I've seen videos since I became a football fan a long time ago. I've seen videos of these Chelsea fans acting the way they are, and it seems it just always got swept under the rug for some reason, and I never understood that. We talked about Chelsea fans being racist. I want to say West Ham was, among us is just as bad as well. And it just always got swept under the rug. And now we see who they really are. And I've been doing this, but I'm glad, people around the world get to see this. And I've been going on Twitter and more videos released and, Chelsea fans tearing up this guy's restaurant. That's just, it's absolutely shameless. They seem to don't care. And that's why I said earlier, I don't, if they look into the financials, yes, they will get punished. But I do not feel bad for them at all. They deserve whatever is coming. And I don't feel bad because I hate, Chelsea, the team Chelsea. I don't feel bad because I can't stand their fans.
But I hate the team as well. They're disgusting. But Zach, why don't you answer this question? Are Spurs still in the top 4 race and will contribute to the Champions League next season?
I think that, yes, we are still in the top 4 race. We have a couple games in hand on the next 2 teams above us. If we can take 3 points tomorrow, then the hope will rise further. And will he be satisfied without Champions League? I think I think he'll be dissatisfied, but I don't think that'll be enough to maybe sway him, especially if we get the top Europa spot, which is still, it's a reasonably prestigious tournament. And if you win that, you get Champions League. So it's a driver in a sense where that's a challenge for him with this team, especially if he can get a few of his signings in.
Well, yeah, okay. Good point. Now, Cam, what about this as a scenario? We don't make top 4, so Conte leaves and goes to PSG, and we get Poch in return. What do you think about that, Cam? You taking that or not?
I see PSG being a Conte type team. I think there's way too many egos there, and there's only one room wherever Conte goes, it's Conte's way or no way. And the one thing where he probably is said some of the good things about the players there, because not only are they really poor footballers at Spurs, but they also lack a lot of personality. So he was able to sort of like imprint a lot of his personality on them. Conte with about a room full of Messis and Neymars, all you're going to see is you're not going to see anything good come out of that.
The irresistible force meeting the immovable object, I think.
Exactly. And so what I would think that is tomorrow's game is a must win. If we don't win it, top 4's out of the question. And then we need to see Arsenal start to go on a losing run. We've got to see them go on a losing run. Arsenal
and West Ham.
Everything's open.
West Ham, I'm not worried about because
they haven't had that yet. I mean,
concentrating the UEFA League. Yeah.
Wolves did us over. Arsenal easily beat them. I mean, these are the sort of things that make the difference. Southampton did us over. Arsenal easily beat them. That's what the difference between top 4 and no top 4 is, unfortunately, guys.
But we're beating the top 4 teams.
Yeah, but we blow it. You got to beat some teams.
You got to beat. I think we got it in our hands, Eric, because we've got to play Arsenal. We've got to play Man United. We've got to play Liverpool, and we've got to play another team. I can't remember.
Our schedule is
we're playing the top 3.
Set up. Yeah, our schedule is set up nicely.
We have to win tomorrow. If we don't win tomorrow, it's over.
Exactly. Tomorrow sets the standards, and our schedule. I feel like it is set up because I was looking at Everton's schedule and poor Everton, but they're going up against every top 6, 7, 8 teams for the rest of the season. But for us, we're playing against lower, bottom half league teams and teams that are also going to probably play the low block, and that's something we have to worry about. And but no, we have Arsenal, we have Liverpool. In terms of big teams, Man United. But after Man United, we got Arsenal, Liverpool. And in terms of big teams,
that's it. I think, isn't it? Yeah.
That's it.
Whereas Arsenal still have to play Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, Man United. They still got to play.
Yes, Arsenal is in that top 4 spot, but then again, at the same time, they haven't played any. They're on a good run. They're good at something that we're not good at, which is beating lower league teams.
Yep.
But they're on a good run. They haven't played anyone, threatening to them. And so I feel like that run will end soon. West Ham run will end soon as well. And,
they've still got to play West Ham away as well. And we got it in our hands, haven't we, Eric? We've got to play Arsenal at home. Yeah.
Exactly.
Zach, do you think there's another question? Is it fair to mix politics and football in the case of Chelsea?
In most ways, and upon the general information, the public information, of course it is, because it's hard not to, because he's the face of that huge sports team, right? But it was all of his work that he did in the past, his dirty work then, and not really the fans' fault or the players' fault. Of course, like I said, the players are there to get paid and to do a job and to play football. But you see a little bit of the disrespect in the fans when they're chanting his name during the Ukraine moment of silence or whatever it was. That's bad. And Cam was right with saying that's what type of people they are. They're obviously diehard Chelsea fans, and they're a fan of the team and they're a fan of the owner. So, yeah, we got to mix the politics right now.
Yeah. It's a funny thing that I was listening to a radio interview and they were saying, it's only a minority of Chelsea fans that are doing it at Norwich. And then one of the Norwich fans rang up and said, by the way, it was all of the Chelsea fans. I was at the game and they were all singing it, not a minority. So it looks like all of them were doing it. So anyway.
It's impossible not to mix politics and sports again.
Yeah,
because
you can't do that. Yeah.
It's always been politics. We always try to hide it. But it always is politics, especially when your owner is literally in line with Putin's money. And so now think about it. This could be us. This could have been us right now. Granted, we're not, our behavior is not as bad as Chelsea fans. I would hope it isn't. But, Roman Abramovich was looking at Spurs before he settled on Chelsea. And so, I
And,
know
yeah.
Levy and Enoch is bad,
But they're not.
could have been worse.
They're doing dodgy stuff. We don't know about it, Cam.
Exactly.
Enoch are doing
Yeah,
some
yeah.
stuff as well.
There's one thing about doing dodgy stuff, and there's one thing about every single
no
thing
thing.
that these guys.
Oh yeah, it's not a comparison. I agree.
We
Yeah.
haven't got enough hours of the week to go through how these oligarchs made their money, because none of them made it like you go to work and make your money, or anyone else made it. It's absolute, complete, and utter corruption. No way did anyone make their money. Not one of them has made it legitimately. So let's not get too carried away with that. The main point here is how do these people even get there in the first place? That is the question. Whether we like Enoch, we don't like Enoch, we don't like anybody else, we should not even be having this debate, because there should have been some ethics in place in the first place to stop these corrupt people getting in and buying whatever the hell they wanted and whatever club they wanted. And it's the Premier League, exactly, that have put themselves in this position, that have done this in the first place. And they've done it again with Newcastle. And they will do it again. And this, when they keep on doing stuff like that, what they're doing is they're chipping away at the beauty of the game. And they're actually now turning people away from them. And they're all doing it because they want the money. They don't care where it came from. They want the money. And it's pretty bad. It's pretty
another coined phrase, money talks.
It leaves a really bitter taste in your mouth, but all we want to do is see great games, great football, enjoy it, enjoy the banter with the other fans, and actually be there for what we're there for, which is we enjoy the sport. And these people bring it in and actually debase it with their corrupt actions,
Yep. I just want to talk about a couple of other things before we finish off. What do you guys think about the relegation fight? Zach, let me start with you. We got, Leeds being sucked into there. They can't win a game for Toffee. The Toffees down at Everton were appalling. What do you think about let's take Norwich and Watford are down. Who do you think is going to be the third team to go down with them, Zach?
I think it will be Everton.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. They're right on the cusp right there. That's going to give – there's a couple teams right on the cusp down there. It was surprising to see Newcastle get out of that.
Yeah, they're out of it now.
But I think that that third spot team is going to be trying real hard now to make sure that they're taking points from every game. And Everton has a lot of work to do, because that was confusing display off from them the other day. And if they continue to do that, they're out of here, and it'll be a shock.
Yeah.
That's
Eric,
my Nana's childhood team.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Eric, who do you think is going to be the third team to go down with Watford and Norwich?
I have three possible teams. I hate to say it Leeds, because we have, Jesse March is the new American head coach. I want to pull for him, of course.
He looks like he's doing a great job at Leeds.
Yeah, it's great to see American, coaches in the Premier League. But that's going to be a struggle. It's going to take time to change a system that's been built on Bielsa, because they've come up through Bielsa. But it's going to be a difficult time to change the system, and he's also one of Ralph Ragnick's, proteges.
Okay.
So, so you're going to see a similar style of play, just a little bit different. Burnley could fight out of it. I like, they have a new Chris Wood now, which is Weghorst.
Yeah.
Well, he's really
Weghorst,
good.
yeah.
But I see Burnley could, take that 18th spot, or Everton, which they do have a decent chance of getting relegated with that schedule.
Yeah.
I was very surprised to see Weghorst go to Burnley. Just saying that.
I mean, there's nothing more to say. I agree. I mean, I think the only reason why we think that Everton are in a really, really bad spot is because they've got some really tough games coming up. From what I saw of the fixture list and all of the teams that have got to play, they've probably got one of the hardest ones. And I'm not sure that Lampard is really cut out for a relegation battle. I mean, he may be a good manager, and he may have been brought in at the end of the season, at the beginning of the season, to come in and help build a team and do something like that. But when you're in a scrap for your life, are you going to turn to someone like Lampard who hasn't had that experience? This is where you can go to.
He's never experienced that in his life.
No, when you go to the Hodgsons or whatever you need to do, to turn the team around and stop the rot.
If they get,
I think they'll do it, and I don't think Delhi is going to be the answer to saving them from relegation. I really don't. I'm sorry to say it.
No, definitely not. And if they do get relegated, would you guys take Calvert-Lewin?
Really good question is that. I mean, he's really gone off the boil, hasn't he? Really?
Yeah.
He would know he would have
But
to
you
play
know what
second
he's
fiddle.
capable of with the right service as well. He's the only player on their team that looks dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me put that back to you. Would you take Richarlison?
Yeah, Richarlison a lot better. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I'd take Richarlison any day.
Yeah.
Simply because of it's not necessarily his goal scoring, but his holding up and his running with the ball and his ability to terrify defenses and pass the ball. You know, I think he's
Player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
What do you think, Eric, about Simon's comments? American coaches don't tend to do well over here. The brand of football is too showy, which is fine if you have talented players born to entertain, but ain't a team like Leeds. Leeds, yes, a good point, Simon. What do you think about Jesse March, and is he going to get him out of trouble or not, Eric?
I mean, there has been good coaches that's that's played well in England. Ted Lasso, for one.
Oh my God.
He's the best one. He was.
Yeah.
But name me an American coach that succeeded. What about who's that guy?
Bobby Bradley. I wouldn't even say.
Yeah. Bob Bradley. Whatever happened to him?
He coached at
Swansea or something. Was?
No, that was also Bobby Bradley.
Yeah.
But no, this guy that coached Huddersfield, he was really
Bruce
German,
Arena.
Bruce Arena, yeah. But there was a guy at Huddersfield.
No, it was that David Wagner. He's American, but he's German American.
Yeah. But I always considered him German, but they considered him American when they was describing American managers. And like I said, I want someone to break that barrier of Americans becoming head coaches in England. Jesse March, he's won a trophy league title in the Austrian league, but his time in the States at New York Red Bulls, he came close. He won a Supporters Shield, but he never won an MLS Cup in the States. But, tied to that Red Bull franchise, he gets to move around. So he went from New York to Salzburg and had a short stint at Leipzig, which didn't work out, which I was surprised by his hire at Leeds. But
I would have gone for Sam Allardyce at Leeds if I were them, but
that's too much of a change. I feel like I feel like you
Cam.
wanted someone similar.
I'm gonna pick up.
Cam, what about this question from Stephen Fells?
Good question, because I think that Delhi deserved the respect of Spurs fans. He was there 5.5 years, 269 games, 67 goals, and I believe that he deserved it. And I think if they were critical of him when he's left, it's not his fault, and I think that's wrong. I think that he deserved all the respect and singing his name and sending him off in style. But one thing that we haven't mentioned about Everton, which I think we need to mention, is none of their players have got relegation clauses in their contract. None of them, not one player, right? Yeah. They also have lost a significant amount of funding because the first oligarch to be banned was an Everton shareholder. And that's had a big impact upon their money and everything else, which is, again, another thing. Why was he banned and why was Abramovich banned? Do I have to take another month for Abramovich? It doesn't make any sense, does it, guys?
No. And the thing for Everton also, Cam, is they could be fined under financial fair play. They could be deducted points, so they could be going down anyway.
It could be. I mean, it seems to me like a perfect storm has hit Everton. A perfect storm has just come together. The bad news for Spurs is we haven't got a penny for Delhi, and it looks like if this all the shit comes together, we might not get a penny for Delhi, which will impact our ability to sign and buy new players.
What was the deal with Delhi then, Cam? Remind us.
It was 0 up front, and I think there was 10 million if he played so many games, and it went up to 25 million depending on how many games he played. And obviously, if he's not in the Premier League, all that goes out the window, doesn't it? If they've declared bankruptcy as well, which is a potential possibility, then we forget it. We ain't going to get anything. And you've got to remember.
Has he come back to us then, or is still registered with Everton?
No, he's gone. He won't come back to us. But you've got to remember, we still haven't paid for Romero yet.
Yeah.
We haven't paid for Kulusevski yet.
I thought we did pay for him.
We haven't paid for Kula, it's a loan, but we paid for.
I'm talking for Romero.
Bentancur.
Yeah. We haven't paid for Romero. Romero's on loan until the end of this season.
But I remember Conte confirming the deal.
We're going to keep him. We got an option to buy him, and we'll pay for him. But it's still
okay. We haven't gone through.
I think we do everything we can to make sure we keep Romero.
We do, but then what it means is that all the fans think we've already paid for him. They don't realize that he will be next year's transfer key.
Yeah.
Suddenly gives us 50 million less to buy another player. And this is an issue for Spurs. And when we don't get the money coming in for Delhi, which looks like we won't, we suddenly find ourselves in a bigger hole. Let's face it. Do anyone think here that Leon's going to pay 50 million back to Tottenham for Ndombele?
I'll take half that, 25 million, cut your losses.
All right, okay.
I'll take half that, cut your losses.
We
But the
get
thing is also, what about your favourite, Cam? Giovanni Lo Celso. He's not pulling up any trees in La Liga, is he?
Apparently, he was the best midfielder in the world after 2 games there, and then since then we never heard from him again. But I mean,
his ratings have been high.
Yeah, but it's an inferior league.
Yeah.
But as long as they give us our money back, I don't care. Do you?
No. And what about Emerson Royal? There's rumours that he's not really a professional footballer. He's just a fake. What do you think about that, Eric?
What bothers me about Emerson Royale, and it's completely not about his game. I'm about to get into his game.
Yeah.
What's with the basketball shorts? And I don't understand why he wears those baggy shorts. But I was literally telling my friend the other day, in Conte's system, in a right wing back system, you're supposed to take on your defender, put in good crosses into the box. And one thing I've seen, he can't cross the ball. I don't think he understands the purpose of a cross. When he crosses, it looks like he's trying to pick out a man, just for a ball to go straight to his man. That's not how you cross. A cross is putting a ball into a space where attackers can run into and hit a first-time finish. And he just simply doesn't do that. We have the only good crosser of the ball I think we have on this team is, I would say, Doherty now. Well, I knew Doherty could cross because I seen him at Wolves, but I never saw him in his first shirt. And Kulisevsky is a good crosser of the ball. Son, Kane. But I don't see this as the thing. I don't want Kane crossing the ball. I want him in the box. But with the team we have, he has to take on that role. And I also think Harry Winks can also put in a good ball into the box. But he's never in the right position to do it.
It's usually by accident, though, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Simon, you should be a comedian, man. You're on the wrong job. I'm telling you, whatever you're doing is so funny.
But I'd like to believe what you're saying. I mean, the only thing that's ever made any sense, Ray, is what you just said when it comes to Emerson Royal and everything I've heard everywhere else to go. It suddenly all made sense. It's a con job. You can't play football. It's definitely a con job. That's the only thing that could...
Who's that guy who signed for Southampton? You meant to be George Weah's cousin.
Listen here, I hear what Eric says, right? And I say to myself, how the hell you get into one of the biggest football teams in the world, the top 10 football team on this planet, and and someone has to explain to you what a cross means? And
the good thing is, I've heard Real Betis interested in taking him back. This is the second team in Sevilla.
He is, I think...
Cam said he'll drive him there personally. From Florida, he'll drive him all the way to Seville.
Suing Barcelona.
I was wondering why it was still sunny.
And for lying to us. I think we should be taking him to court because this guy was never a professional footballer. That's the only thing that makes sense.
He's the first choice right back for Brazil, Cam.
I thought he was still at first. But...
He is.
At first, yeah, for sure.
The only thing that can make sense. I mean, the Brazilians will do anything for money, so who knows what that means.
What do you think about him, Zach? Emerson Royal.
I thought he was supposed to be our starter. Let down quite a bit. Now, I will admit there are improvements in his sportsmanship a little bit. He used to be kind of a flopper. He just roll around on the ground a little bit, go down too easy, etc. I'm glad he's not doing that as much. He's showing a lot better grit in tackles. I'm seeing improvements defensively, but not at all offensively, and kind of as a wing back, you need to be good at both of those things, which is kind of the opposite of Sessegnon, who is good at going forward, but I think his defensive abilities are very lacking.
Yeah. So Cam,
I think we were all taking Aurier right now, or Trippier.
Yeah, Aurier would be perfect for this system, wouldn't he, Cam?
We need Trippier for free kicks.
Yeah, Trippier. Eric, Aurier would be ideal for this. So Eric, let me go around the panel. Who are you getting rid of at the end of the season, Eric?
Who I'm getting rid of? It depends on who we bring in, but the first people I want to get rid of is Emerson.
Yeah.
Winks. And
did he not just sign a contract?
No.
Winks?
No. Sessegnon signed the contract. But no, I would get rid of Winks. I would get rid of Emerson. I wouldn't get rid of Ben Davies because we need depth. We need depth in general. That's why I have a feeling we might keep Winks for the depth in the midfield. But I want to see Emerson gone, and I want to see Winks gone. and
Yeah.
keep the depth all around. Dyer, he can stay. He's improved. I've had zero complaints about Eric Dyer since he's been under Antonio Conte, and I'm glad I'm able to
Same
say
with
that.
Ben Davies, really.
Ben
Yeah,
Davies, I
but we
think,
need
is
depth in that position.
Ben Davies we should keep for cup games or lower level games. He's not for elite
Yes,
games.
he's
But
not.
just
he's
one
not
thing,
a star.
Zach. Even if you sign a contract, it doesn't matter. It just means your price goes up because you're on a,
That's
on
true.
a contract. So yeah, Zach, and then I'm going to come to Cam. Zach, who are you getting rid of at the end of the season? Conte's staying. Who's he going to get rid of? Who do you want him to get rid of?
Yeah, I think Royale will be gone. We need to bring in another right wing back, capable. Winks can go. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if Højbjerg gets moved just to make some money. Like he's a good enough squad player for us. And you've seen with Bentancur that he's been able to kind of roam around a little more. But I think that we can get an improvement on him even. And honestly, Lucas, I think he'll be moved because...
What is this thing with Lucas? He's not injured at the moment. Why is he not getting in there?
That's a good question. Like I've always rated him pretty highly. I just think...
I'll come to you in a minute, Cam.
I just think he's going to be gone because he's not going to be getting the game time now. Even off the bench, you're seeing Bergwijn come on more than Lucas. So something's not working there with Conte, and I think we'll see Lucas gone.
Yeah. Cam?
I'm going to say that, Bergwijn's got to go. Absolutely useless after 2 goals. I'm sorry, they're nothing.
He doesn't get a chance. He gets 10 minutes every game, man. Come on.
Useless. I think the Kane and Son partnership will be broken up. One of them will go. One of them will not stay because that's the only way we're going to get some money to rebuild the squad. So let's say we're either going to lose Kane or we're going to lose Son. Personally, I know no one's going to like this, but I'd like to see Son go because I just don't think he's consistent enough.
He's not consistent, is he? No.
Just not giving us that level of consistency, which, and he's been very disappointing. I'd like to see Mora go. I'd like to see Davis go. And I'd like to see Doherty go. I'd like to see Emerson go. And I would like to see all of those positions replaced with stronger players. I do think that we need to seriously, I think Højbjerg should go. I think Skip and Bentancur should be our main two, with Winks providing a backup behind them. Are they going to get better than them? I think if it was a choice between keeping Davis or keeping Sanchez, I'd keep Sanchez because he's younger, he's fit, and he can learn better. And the only reason I'd get rid of Davis is because he's old and he's had his day, We might get a few bucks for him. If he stayed another couple of years, we're going to get nothing for him. But I think if you're talking about a rebuild, you cannot talk about a rebuild without rebuilding from the front, and you're going to lose one of those two. Personally, I think it will be Kane, but personally, I would prefer it to be Son.
Yeah. Oh, Kane. I don't think no way. He's got to stay forever.
Though, is he? I mean,
who's going to be the creative midfielder, Eric? Who's Cam and Zach? Who's the creative midfielder that's going to open these low block teams up?
It's going to be a rebuild.
I haven't identified one yet.
You can't.
Frank Kessie's not. Is Frank Kessie that type of player?
No. He's gone. He's gone to Barcelona.
He's a ball carrier.
I've liked how Renato Sanchez has looked at Lille.
Yeah, he looks really good actually. Renato Sanchez, is he at Lille? He looked really good against Chelsea.
Yeah.
He's a baller, that guy. He played really well. There's a clip of him on Twitter going round, and he's one hell of a player. Cam, what do you think of Renato Sanchez?
Not consistent enough. I might as well keep Son then. I mean, I think Son's a fantastic player, but is this about consistency? The problem with Spurs is we get one great performance and we let them dine out on it for the next 6 months. You never win anything that way. The only way you win things is by performing week in, week out. And unless we get players with that mentality, we're going to win nothing.
So do you think people like Son and Kane, they don't have that mentality? They do one good performance and they drop next one?
That's why it's not going to last.
So give me some players who have got the mentality where they do it day in, day out. Give me some examples.
Szoboszlai, Leipzig.
I've not heard of him.
Oh, he's good. Really good.
Yeah, 20-year-old, amazing.
Take any City player, right? However, they're their worst player, and take our best player and look at the consistency level. That's all I'll have to say. Or take Liverpool's worst player, look at our best player, and look at the consistency.
That's how good they are.
Okay, guys, we're gonna.
Who would that be? Who would be Liverpool's worst?
Minamino.
And he's doing good. Ah, damn
He's doing good, isn't he? Yeah.
There you go. You answered it. It.
But Cam, you know what you're asking for, you can't do. You can't get rid of 6 or 7 players from the first team. It just doesn't work that way.
Then you can't rebuild.
You need to keep some chemistry.
We have to keep
Yeah, you've got to keep some consistency there, continuity. You can't just bring 6 or 7 players in.
They're all friends too. You can't break up friendships like that.
Yeah, that's right.
Business first, but
we're not going to rebuild and then Conte's going to walk. That's what I'm.
Yeah, I think so. Listen,
I'm
guys,
thinking 4 or 5 could go.
Yeah, I think so. Let's wrap it up now. It's been a great chat. Hopefully we can do this more regularly in the future. I think we should do it every week because there's lots of people want to see us doing that. So, final thoughts from everybody. Let's start with you, Eric. We'll go clockwise way.
Manchester United is is going to tell the tale if we're really up to it or not. And I win at Old Trafford, which we did it last season. But this is we're at a crucial point in our season where this could be the top 4 decider, an early top 4 decider, and we have to win it because it sets the tone for the rest of the season. So have to win tomorrow, and it's on. Okay,
Cam.
I think my final thoughts are that I think the next game is the question for us is what we've got 12 games left to go. Is it 12 or is it?
We've got 12 games left. Yeah, Cam, let me just stop you for a minute. So normally 65, 70 points, 66 points will normally get you top 4. So we've got 42 at the moment. 42. So we need another 24 points, which is 8 wins out of 12. Can we do that or not?
Oh yeah.
If we don't do that, we are not going to get anywhere. And I believe that it starts tomorrow. Of those 12 games, we need to be winning all of them. We cannot afford to lose anymore.
So it's wins or nothing. Draws are no good for us, are they?
Good for us, no. And I think 2 stumbles and it's over. That's fine.
So we can afford to lose 2, and other than that, we can't.
Yeah, and we can't afford. If we lose them tomorrow, then it's already over because we've got another 11 games. We're going to keep stumbling, and the momentum's on. If we lose 2 after winning 8, I think we could probably still get there. But it's when we lose.
So
them.
If we don't get top 4, Cam, does that mean that Conte's been a failure?
Well, I think if we get top 6, we're really there.
No, I know you must be drunk, Stephen, if you think I'm bringing the beauty. I'm getting worried about you, Stephen.
Thanks. Yeah. I would agree with that.
I missed the answer to that question. What was what did I ask? Oh, is it a failure if we don't get top 4, Cam?
I think top 6 for me is what it would have been from where we started when we were with Nuno. Top 10 would have been a success if we kept Nuno. And if with the same useless team, Conte could get us top 6, that would be a good thing. That would be something to build on next season.
Yeah, we need to do something soon because quickly, one thing, Son is 29. Excuse me. Son is about to turn 30 this year, and Kane is going to turn 29 this year as well. So we have to do something fast, to get the best out of him.
I think Kane's going to stay as good as he is just as long as Lewandowski does. And he's 33, still banging more goals than anyone else.
Final thoughts, Zach? Final thoughts from you, Zach?
Yeah, tomorrow is the first building block, one of the tougher building blocks that we're going to have to go through for the rest of the season. Liverpool, a draw at Liverpool would be good. So some promising fixtures. I always look past Arsenal. We got to blow them away just to make a statement for London. North London is lily white, and it always will be. But tomorrow we really have to put the work in to start frustrating the superstars that are Man United, get them pitted against each other, make Maguire hopefully make a few big mistakes and just capitalize on the takeaway. We must win. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's important. I think the game tomorrow, not only for us to win, but to kill Manchester United's hopes of getting top 4 as well. So I think it's important. So come on, you Spurs. Let's have a come on, you Spurs from every, and then we'll close it. So Cam, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Eric.
Come on, you Spurs.
Zach.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. And we'll see you hopefully next week. If everybody can make it, we'll do another show next week. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time. Thank you for all our people, Simon, Stephen, Tina, Amanda, everybody for Stephen Fells. Thanks, everybody to everybody. And we'll see you next week, hopefully. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Bye. Good show, guys. Thanks very much.
Yeah, it's always good.
Let's do it. Let's try and make time to do it again next week. I think consistency is really good.
Yeah. Spring break
Yep.
is next week for me, so yeah, I'll be free.
Yep. All right, guys. Have a great weekend.